Great. Today I would like to, we now have Scott Taylor, who's coming in. He's a Director General Digital Enablement over at Shared Services Canada. He has a huge role, and Shared Services Canada is basically providing all the platform services to the entire Canadian government, which ends up being probably between about 100 and 150 separate entities. Scott basically graduated. He completed a post-secondary diploma in computer science in 1987, and then he joined the Navy, the Royal Canadian Navy, serving as a maritime surface subsurface officer. He served in numerous combat and supply ships in a wide variety of roles, and then he was posted to the Maritime Coastal Defense Vessel Shipbuilding Project in Ottawa as the Operational Requirements Manager. He then worked between 1998 and 2005 as an IT professional in the private sector, and then in 2005 he rejoined Defence in the Information Management Group in Canada's Department of National Defence. He was appointed Director of Information Management and Capability Development in 2011, and he worked for the Defence Chief Information Officer. And then in 2017, he became the Senior Director of Service Delivery Management at Shared Service in government. Okay, for that. He basically also handled Director General of Security Management and Governance and was responsible for enterprise risk management security architecture. He is now Director General of Digital Enablement in the Chief Technology Officer branch at Shared Services Canada, and he leads a group of highly skilled professionals tasked with research and development of new, innovative, and disruptive technologies. So without further ado, Scott, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Thank you very much for that great introduction. It makes me feel old when I look at all the things on that bio. So, folks, as Bob said, you know, I currently work as the Director General of Digital Enablement in Shared Services Canada. You know, over the last 31 years, I've worked in some form or another for the federal government. Worked in the Navy. I would say that I'm a jack of all trades today. My team would probably describe me as someone smart enough to ask the right questions, but master of nothing. And given the company I keep today in the digital enablement space, that's I'll take that as a compliment. Today, as Bob said, I work for the Chief Technology Officer of Shared Services Canada. I'm responsible for a program of research and development aimed at emerging technologies and their uses and how they can transform and build the Government of Canada digital services. And I can tell you with all honesty that outside of a few exciting times in the Navy, this is the best job I've ever had. A team of professionals today whose job it is to think outside the box, to introduce disruptive technologies, to do the research and development, and to see them come to fruition in government as we try to transform our services. Today, I'll talk a little bit about Shared Services Canada's journey since we were created 10 years ago, and how our very creation as a department was probably one of the biggest catalysts, in my opinion at least, for digital transformation in the Government of Canada. You'll bear with me as I navigate my slides. So SSC, Shared Services Canada, was created 10 years ago to deliver IT services associated ostensibly with networks and data centers, email and telecommunications to some of the biggest departments in the Government of Canada. On the day of our creation, we were responsible for around 50 networks, 21 email systems, 500 plus data centers, and well north of 2,000 applications. Although our support to the applications was from the infrastructure side, we did not take on application support. On the day of our creation, approximately 5,000 employees left their respective departments on a Friday afternoon, and on a Monday morning, they were Team SSC. Now, I'm taking a few liberties with those details, but you get the point. The complexities of 43 IT departments we took the complexities of 43 IT department teams and we combined them into one department. And there are lots of war stories from those first few years. Everything from the president at the time having to be afforded space in another department's building to, as you can imagine, in government, the authorities to procure, to spend, to hire, all had to be established in those early days. But so why would we do such a thing? Certainly there were a variety of reasons in 2010, 2011, to centralize IT infrastructure service delivery into a new department. And we could probably go into those, but they would take the whole hour. The short version is that Canada recognized at the time that the level of aging IT, the duplication of capabilities, and the rapidly growing global need to collaborate better, share more, and connect everything necessitated a change to common enterprise services, necessitated a change to leverage the buying power of the Government of Canada, and to rapidly accelerate our path to digital. Make no mistake, in those early days, it was tough. There was a lot of work. The goal was to keep things from breaking. Keep the lights on became the mantra. As you can imagine, 5,000 employees, 1 week in their departments, the next week, Team SSC. Within a few years, we moved into what we called SSC 2.0, where although we planned for the future enterprise state, much of our effort was on improving our service delivery, getting beyond keeping the lights on, measuring how well our partners thought we were doing, and we do that on a constant basis still today, and defining what an enterprise approach would actually mean. Today, we're a couple of years into what we call the Shared Services Canada 3.0 campaign, which is essentially meant to execute on that enterprise approach. SSC 3.0 is all about digital transformation. It emphasizes the whole of government enterprise shift from every organization operating independently to every organization using common IT systems. Enterprise matters because it allows for faster turnarounds, it enhances collaboration, it increases reliability, and reduces risk. It's the driver for SSC's future, to put it bluntly. Today's digital landscape is one of relentless and disruptive change. We all see it in our personal lives. We certainly see it in our professional lives. In this fast-paced environment, the Government of Canada is challenged to anticipate and adapt and keep pace. When Shared Services Canada was established in 2011, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, they all seemed to be in the distant future. Today, SSC is working in all of those areas. While there's no single one-size-fits-all approach for the Government of Canada digital services, SSC works with our federal partners and clients to improve the user experience by consolidating, modernizing, and standardizing. Right. This results in economies of scale, more secure and reliable services, faster turnarounds, enhanced collaboration, and ultimately reduced risk, which in turn better serves Canadians. So a little bit about this SSC 3.0. 3.0 is built around three very simple priorities. Priority one, network and security. Network and security are the very foundations of digital government and the basis for all government services. Simply put, without network and security stable services, there is no digital vision. The network couldn't be more fundamental to SSC's role in the digital age. It's as essential as other utilities that we can depend on, such as electricity and heat. And if we think about it that way, our number one priority is to build a reliable network utility that is always on, available anywhere, reliable, fast, and scales up based on the user needs. With SSC 3.0, the Government of Canada has the opportunity to transition away from single departmental networks, those 50 or more networks that we started with. The new networks will be accessible anytime, anywhere, and by anyone. They'll be built with accessibility in mind. They'll be scalable. They'll accommodate the continuous improvement and increasing diversity of government programs and services, And this will make the Government of Canada more responsive to Canadians' demands for services that they can access anytime, anywhere, and from any device on a trusted and secure platform. An updated network will use the latest security measures that better protect personal information, connect seamlessly to the cloud and enterprise data centers on premise, and move at a speed and scale that gives users the connectivity they need, whether that be internal public servants administering these networks, or whether it be citizens connecting to the government to consume services. The second priority of Shared Services 3.0 is workplace collaboration tools. To deliver on their departmental mandates and provide high-value services to Canadians, public servants need modern and effective workplace tools. This will not be a one-size-fits-all approach, but rather one that is streamlined and tailored to a set of options based on users' needs. For example, an inspector who spends much of their time in the field could require multiple access points, a virtual office, and extended mobility, where a researcher or a scientist could require big data on large data sharing platforms in a more traditional office setting. Our workplace tools need to accommodate both. SSC 3.0 will support a government-wide enterprise digital workspace platform. What does that mean? It means the federal public servants will have access to devices ranging from mobile to traditional workstations from anywhere. The third priority of SSC 3.0 is application modernization. Now you may be thinking, Scott, you told me we don't support applications, but we certainly do support all the infrastructure right up to the application layer. Networks, operating systems, switches, routers, mobile devices, middleware to some extent. Working with our clients, we're identifying the applications most at risk and with the highest potential impact to service to Canadians. We're updating these solutions to be more reliable, run on modern hosting solutions, common solutions, and are tailored to the end user experience. And that last piece there is really important. SSC is focused on the experience of the end user. We have all become accustomed to having the digital tools we need at our fingertips. We need to collaborate more, communicate in many forms, and share information seamlessly. So the journey to get SSC where it is today has been full of hard work, ups and downs, failures and successes, to be sure. We've closed hundreds of legacy data centers. We currently support well over 200,000 federal public servants, and we process over 600,000 service requests a year, and over 100,000 incidents, break-fix issues a year. Not to mention, we work with our partners and key security stakeholders, such as the Communications Security Establishment, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, Public Safety, and the CIO of Canada Apparatus and Treasury Board, to implement evolving security services to respond to cyber incidents. In fact, with regards to security, the recent report by the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, NSI-COP, that's published publicly about 2 months ago on the state of the Government of Canada's cyber defense, recommends the extension of key SSC security services to GC departments and agencies that are not currently served by Shared Services Canada. Things like common internet gateways. So having internet access flow through monitored, controlled, and well-regulated gateways is one of the best ways to protect Canadians' data. So as you can see, SSC's journey has been rewarding and successful thus far. There have, though, been events that have caused course corrections or necessitated plans to be changed. In my view, the government of Canada's move to the cloud and the past 2 years of the COVID pandemic are certainly two of the biggest. And I'll talk about those in a bit more detail. I'll talk a little bit about cloud first. So in the summer, well, I'll go back a little further. Prior to the creation of SSC, cloud had probably been a well understood concept for 4 or 5 years. There are purists who'll tell you it goes back 20 to 30 years, but really the mid-2000s are when companies like Google and IBM and Salesforce really started pushing hard on the cloud concepts. In the summer of 2014, the Government of Canada, so 3 years after the creation of SSC, the government of Canada began consulting with industry to get input on the GC cloud adoption strategy. What would it look like? We were joined by more than 60 industry organizations that sat with executives and leaders in government to discuss just that. In November of 2017, the government of Canada issued its direction on the secure use of commercial cloud services, the security policies commensurate with that, and the direction for electronic data residency. These directions now allow for protected B data to be hosted in the public cloud. For those of you who don't know, protected B cloud is personal information, sensitive information. It's things like tax records or social security numbers. Around the same time, SSC initiated a light touch cloud broker service that put us at the center of the cloud adoption across the GC. And cloud adoption was happening with a bang, I can tell you. Cloud first in the government of Canada was really adopted by all departments. The move from legacy environments into the cloud has grown steadily and is now at a very, very rapid pace. We started developing things like secure cloud enablement and defense services. Pardon me. The SCED, as it was called, allowed us to establish new private dedicated connections to the public cloud from a GC workstation. So from a user to the cloud, the person's data and identity and the transmission of the signal itself is regulated and protected. This service had security built in to ensure that we could safeguard the data passing to and from the cloud. In 2018, we established framework accounts with Microsoft, Azure, AWS for these protected B tenants. And this improves security through the use of automated security guardrails, things like two-factor authentication and encryption. These agreements were followed closely by agreements in 2020 with companies like ThinkOn and Oracle, Salesforce, ServiceNow, Google, and now with all departments moving in some fashion to the cloud, SSC needed to manage hybrid environments where identities, directory services, as well as operational data flowed from the on-prem infrastructure into the public cloud and back. We recognized early on that we need to upskill our workforce. And last year, we launched what we called the Cloud Skilling Program. It was a way of increasing cloud skills in the workforce. The program provides industry-recognized skills, development, curriculum, and certification programs through major cloud service providers and learning institutions. Today, we're poised to take on an even larger role in cloud-related activities. We continue to help out partners migrate workloads to the cloud. You know, help is a very simple word there, but we execute the transition from legacy into cloud. We have 4 enterprise class data centers across the country, and we still manage hundreds of legacy data centers. Partners, depending on the workloads, are moving either from legacy into our on-prem enterprise data centers or into the cloud, and probably more into the cloud than into the data centers. We continue to help out partners migrate workload to the cloud in that fashion. And we've enabled all partners currently to use things like Microsoft Office 365 collaboration tools in the cloud, things like Teams and OneNote and all the productivity tools that are associated with that. And we're steadily moving all partners toward cloud-based email services. I'm working today off a cloud-managed desktop. My email is in a protected B SSC cloud tenant residing in the public cloud. So the future is bright, despite the cloud, and that's my one joke. And they're not going to get it. And if I had more, they wouldn't get any better. Right. I'll move on to the second, what I'm calling disruptor, and that's COVID-19. The last 2 years have changed. Haven't changed the direction, but they've changed the face of government public service and the services that are delivered to Canadians. Now, I'm not saying that anything good has come out of COVID-19. It's been a global tragedy that has affected us all, as you can all attest. The work, though, that SSC took on to accommodate the hundreds of thousands of federal public employees that were suddenly being asked to work from home the immediate or near immediate introduction of new government services aimed at helping Canadians cope with the COVID reality, and the need for public servants to have new tools in order to support all of that, pushed SSC to be creative and to accelerate its already in place digital plans. Make no mistake, we were already on the path to embracing new cloud-based digital services. We were planning for cloud-based mail and cloud-based collaboration tools. But when COVID struck, these plans all took on a new urgency. Programs that had timelines stretching out 12 to 18 months were accomplished in 6 or less. If you look at the slide that I'm displaying, on the far left is kind of where it started, how we were working pre-COVID. Most of the meetings that I attended that weren't in person were done on teleconferencing bridges. Our total government capacity for telework was around 137,000. The actual concurrent connections was much lower than that. And we had, some WebEx accounts to do, internet video conferencing. Very quickly, when the government reacted to the COVID-19, when the government employees all had to do their jobs, probably do more of it now from home, many of our digital services were ramped up. We quickly moved to over 300,000 public servants being able to connect to their home networks. I think our current redundant capacity, concurrent capacity for remote connections is north of 200,000. We saw a 100% increase in WebEx. We quickly rolled out Microsoft Teams video conferencing, initially as an unclassed version, but within a couple of months, we were able to hold those meetings at the protected B level. Over 12.3 million Canadians and businesses accessed economic supports over the first year and a half of the COVID pandemic. All of those government programs, whether they were with ESTC or with CRA, were all powered by changes SSC was having to do in the back end. As we look to the future, it's not easy to say, it's not hard to see that these changes, some of these changes are here to stay. I'm talking to you today from my home. It's where I've done my work for the last 2 years. A return to the office will certainly happen, but in a lot of cases, it will be hybrid. As we look to the future of work in the GC, the SSC 3.0 approach is going to be even more and more pertinent. To illustrate that, I just want to give you a little example. Prior to COVID, I had worked from home maybe 5 times in my entire career. And in each of those 5 times, it frustrated me. I preferred to be in the office, face-to-face with my team. Today, after 2 years of working from my family room, my opinion on telework is very different. I meet my team as a group more often. We brainstorm more. And a return to office will probably be a hybrid model. I have the tools to be as productive or even more so at home than I was in the office pre-COVID. Now, I've been in my office a few times in the last couple of months. On my first day back there, I noticed a teleconference device sitting on my table in my office, Polycom unit. Pre-COVID, as I said, all my meetings that could not be accomplished in person were conducted over a teleconference bridge. Yet a month into the pandemic, I switched to having all my meetings via Teams video conferencing. That's when telework stopped frustrating me. When I could still look at my colleagues, I could share data. Looking at that Polycom now in my office, I think I know how my kids feel when I describe a dial-up modem. Now, 2 years for all this change may not seem fast for some folks on the call, but consider the number of departments and agencies that I talked about before that this stuff was accomplished for, the complexity of multiple networks, multiple priorities, and some of the no-fail services that these departments were delivering and accelerating due to COVID. With our partners, we've accomplished some very great things in the past 2 years. And the digital transformation of the government of Canada moved forward significantly. We're quite proud of that, and I'm quite proud of what we've been able to accomplish. going to move on to a bit more specific details around the program that I'm involved in Shared Services Canada. As I said, I lead the digital enablement group inside the Chief Technology Officer branch of Shared Services Canada. The goal of that program is to foster digital transformation through research and development of emerging technologies. To do that, we are active on many fronts. We're striving to foster a culture of innovation within SC and across our partners. I've got several teams actively engaged in the development of new tools, new processes, and services aimed at solving business problems across the Government of Canada. And finally, as a GC provider of centralized services, we work with our partners hand in hand, and in some cases with industry and academia, to raise awareness and share knowledge and bring together communities of interest. I'll step through some of the programs that we are currently engaged in. First one I'll talk about is artificial intelligence. So under the Chief Technology Officer, we have established an AI Center of Excellence, which is responsible for the artificial intelligence program. It uses disruptive technologies to incubate AI use cases, promotes the use of AI across the organization and across the government. And we try to break down silos and foster that digital innovation. In the slide you can see on the screen, I'm lumping artificial intelligence in with robotic process automation, which we're also involved in, and the merging of the two, something we call intelligent automation. SSC's approach to these are very similar despite their technological differences. We've set ourselves 3 different mandates in this area. First one is to support SSC. So in collaboration with our CIO organization, we're supporting digital transformation activities, again, fostering a culture of innovation. We are a department of almost 8,000 IT experts, right? So you put 2 IT experts in a room and you'll get a bunch of good ideas. We've got 8,000, so we need to harness that. The second mandate is to support our partners across the GC. That's what we were created for. That's what we're built to do. So we advocate for client requirements for enabled AI and intelligent automation and RPA infrastructure through communication, direct engagement, and thought leadership. We do that in various forums, in working groups, in communities of interest, in almost outright cold calls. We contact our partners and say, hey, what are you doing in the AI space? How can we help? The third mandate we've set for ourselves, which is more of a longer term one and one we're just starting on, is taking into account SSC's raison d'etre, which is a service provider to the government. And if you take that a step further into the AI space, how can we deliver AI services? How can we deliver AI as a service, machine learning as a service to the rest of government? We hope to do that through a GC AI marketplace, and that would be a central hub of AI resources, both inside of SSC, but partnering with other departments, AI technologists, analysts, data scientists, and practitioners. The AI hub would help communities to quickly get started. We're seeing that today. We see many departments coming to us, smaller departments that have yet to stand up. I think I've gone too far. Pardon me, folks. Go back. There we go. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. I was lamenting to Bob earlier that he's making me work. I'm used to having people advance my slides. So we're starting to see departments approach at shared services, asking for our help in setting up AI programs, RPA programs. We're giving out that advice. We have data scientists on staff. We can look at their data. Other departments have bigger AI shops than ours. We find synergies to work with them, to share information, to share data, to share code. In the case of robotic process automation, share bots. And so a little bit about RPA and what's happening in our space. As you probably know, RPA, Robotic process automation is low-code, no-code technology that enables rapid development of automations for business processes, right? According to some market research like Forbes, RPA is the, and I quote, low-hanging fruit for digital transformation. And it's a gateway technology to realizing organizational benefits. RPA technology provides organizations like SSC the very real ability to automate existing business processes at speed and scale, whether we're scraping data from a website, renewing security building passes, or processing financial invoices. RPA technology is geared towards optimizing business processes. I'll give you an example. Working with our departmental CIO, my team is helping create RPA bots to automate parts of the access to information process, or ATIP as it's called. Now, ATIP is a fundamental element of a government's commitment of transparency to its citizens. Thousands of ATIP requests are made each year. When an ATIP request comes in, it sets off a very intensive manual process to find the information being requested, make sure we have it all, collate it, to review it for releasability or redaction, and eventually respond to the request. I've done hundreds of these in my career. Depending on the scope of the ask, this involves many people, many hours of work. Creating a bot to automate even parts of this, like weeding out duplicates, searching or reviewing for mandatory redactions, would make this process faster and more efficient. Once we've created that capability inside of SSC, we'll take it to the Government of Canada marketplace that we're creating, and we'll share that with other departments. In turn, they will share theirs with ours. With regards to artificial intelligence, we're also working on several fronts. Internally, we've developed an AI way forward vision paper that has been published internal to government, has not been released to the public yet, but I expect in due course it will. We've incubated and explored 22 use cases, individual use cases using AI. We've deployed an incubation lab in both Azure and AWS, and we continue to upskill our experts. Second big focus area for us is around network infrastructure, research and innovation in the network space. So I said earlier, secure and adaptable networks are a foundational item for any GC transformation. It's no different. It's no different today than it was 10 years ago. And we're looking at things like software-defined infrastructure, wireless, and the security overlays that go over all of that go through all those. We're currently looking at SD-LAN and WAN technologies, for example, and we're putting software-defined networking in our on-prem data centers. We're working with our colleagues in the science community right now to pilot new tools and processes, testing MFA and identity management, multi-factor authentication and identity management, which are the underpinnings to the security and the zero trust piece that we're going to overlay on top of all that infrastructure. That, that science community has some unique user requirements when it comes to connectivity and data sharing and compute and storage, as you can imagine. So a perfect place to test this. Those pilots are going well, and they'll inform future design and procurement across the GC. So if we look at the way COVID has changed the work environment for public servants, in 2 years, we moved from traditional on-prem network access, where everyone accessed the internet and the cloud capabilities from inside a network, to most connections now, most public servants now connecting from home. We had to adapt our approach here so that cloud and internet is not by default through corporate gateways. We use split tunneling to access trusted cloud environments. My mouse is killing me. And with new collaboration tools like video conferencing and data sharing being the norm now, as we return to the office, we need to ensure that those corporate networks can accommodate the work from home experience. Underpinning all of that is the need to maintain the integrity and confidentiality of the network, which is where the zero trust comes in. The last piece I want to talk about is enterprise applications and emerging tech. So I said at the beginning that SSC did not have a role in delivering applications, but we certainly supported the infrastructure that did so. Today, though, as departments look to the cloud to host their applications and to embrace things as software as a service and platform as a service offerings, SSC can create even more value for the GC by evolving its services to support large, repeatable platform and application services. I'll give you another example. We're piloting a platform as a service offering right now through one of our cloud service providers to deliver an auditing functionality that currently most departments have on-prem versions of. Separate licensing, separate siloed data sets on individual licensed contracts. By delivering a fully managed cloud service, departments can subscribe to the capability when they need to. Common GC specific attributes can be negotiated with the vendor, and the data can be shared and compared across the departments. This is a small example, but if we scale the idea up to larger and more complex systems like those that deliver pay or HR benefits, the impacts to the government become even more evident. We're also looking into things like Internet of Things, blockchain, DevOps, low-code apps, digital twin. Our goal there is twofold. One is to seek to understand these technologies and develop the requisite skills to develop them. And two, to investigate use cases across government where these technologies can transform services and bring value to Canadians. That concludes my presentation today. Any of these areas warrant much deeper dives, and I'd be happy to field any questions you have. As you can see, Shared Services Canada is building on our experience and past successes and is looking to fulfill its role in the digital transformation of the Canadian federal government. Thanks, Bob.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Sarah Scott. That was a whirlwind presentation. Like I said, there's so much there. It's something that you're not going to basically be able to answer in the space of a 40-minute presentation. But I very much appreciate your coming today. I've got a couple of questions for you. So the first question is, sorry, I've just got to write the system there. The first question is, how do you manage risk of identity theft and cybersecurity risk when moving protected B personal information to the cloud? Well, that's a very specific question, but
yeah. So the easy answer is we don't do it alone. We partner with, we have something called the tripartite security tripartite within government. It involves Shared Services Canada, the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity, which is a piece of the Communications Security Establishment, and a Treasury Board OCIO. So SSC provides the infrastructure. We do some monitoring. We ensure the common encryption protocols, right? Things like the Secure Cloud and Enablement Defense Service that puts in ready-made connections from user to cloud are in place before we allow those connections to happen. And then the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity leverages all of their tools to do inline monitoring, reporting, and perimeter defense to detect potential cyber attacks. I can say I just came from that space. I spent 2.5 years managing the security risk of enterprise services. And if anybody, I'm sure this community is well aware last year of all the public security events that happened across the world. And the government infrastructure came out of that relatively unscathed because of the layered built-in defense we've put into our designs for connecting to cloud. Moving to a protected B cloud was done methodically and very carefully with those three organizations in lockstep.
Okay, I've got another question now. And I'm sorry, I'm just basically trying to get through. We've been inundated with questions there, Scott.
Well, it's a big topic. I get it.
And it's very how to best describe it? It's very pertinent to a great many individuals online. How is SSC working to develop more cost-friendly services to enable government departments to identify, test, select, and acquire leading-edge tech to develop more effective digital service platform for Canadian public service delivery? So I'm basically saying, how is SSC making these services available to the department, the clients?
Right. So for the services that we are obligated to deliver, obviously, networks, data centers, email, telecommunications. We have a robust, like any government department, we have a robust process of procurement to ensure we get best value and best service for Canadians. In this space, we are setting up, for example, both technical standing offers with multiple industry partners and professional service standing offers. So not only SSC, but all the government departments can go to the experts in industry, quickly get the tools they need that have already been competitively processed, right? And get the SMEs they need on short-term basis to bring into their teams, to upskill their teams, to get them going. So by setting up standard enterprise level contracts, that's one way of doing it. These things are competed for best value. And it means we've gone to industry ahead of time and said, hey, what are the best in breed tools out there? All you folks who keep telling us you can deliver these services to us, be part of this standing offer and make your services available to the rest of government.
Okay. I've just got a quick one, and this is going to be the last question. I'm just looking at the number of votes that each question gets. Regarding the SSC journey slide, are there plans to experiment / adopt private and permission blockchain networks to determine if there could be benefits to the security and storage of data? And I'm sorry if it's too technical.
No, that's fine. I mean, you're stretching me, Bob. You're stretching my technical ability here. I have smarter people than me to do this stuff. But yes, the short answer, yes. Blockchain is one of those things. If you think about, so I'm going to give you a Navy analogy. I spent a lot of time in the Navy looking at a radar. The outside of that radar, that was the stuff that was further away, and I was in the middle. A little further out are things like blockchain and digital twin. We are looking at those things. We want to understand how they work. We want to understand what use cases they can be leveraged for. I have personally talked to the Australian government. I've talked to multiple industry partners in the last 2 months alone, looking at how they are leveraging blockchain, what use cases can it be used for in security, in data integrity, in supply chain. So it is on the radar. Don't currently have a specific use case that we're progressing today, but I expect we will in the next 12 months.
Okay, well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to call questions on the presentation, but thank you ever so much, Scott, for coming out. As a matter of fact, when you're dealing with patterns and the like, it'd be interesting because the next speaker is going to be Dr. Yolanda Martinez, and she's working at United Nations for GovStack shared services, and they're focusing on providing these patterns and this advice to emerging nations to save them a tremendous amount of research effort that we basically put onto it. But anyways, this presentation will be made available to everybody on the CVent site, and I hope that everybody will tune in for the next presentation from Dr. Martinez. So again, thank you very much, Scott, for taking the time to speak, and anyways, look very much forward to continuing on this dialogue.
Anytime, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, you take care.